In this tutorial, I want to introduce you into the blueprint system in Unreal. Blueprints are basically a visual scripting language that Unreal uses, and it's meant to be kind of beginner friendly and a bit easier for sort of artists and non-programmers to use to be able to code logic into the game. You'll see that it's not the same as like line code, like doing something in C++ or C Sharp or something like some other engines. It's a bit more, you sort of have nodes that you drag and drop. So to be able to edit our blueprints or create new ones, we need to access the file system of our project. To do that, in the bottom corner, we have this content drawer. If we click on that, you'll see that this little window pops up. And so it shows you all the folders that have been created automatically. So this particular project that our blank project is using is based off of the third person template. There are other templates, but for the sake of this tutorial, we want to just keep it simple and stick to the third person one. On here, if you don't like the way that this sort of like pops out, I don't personally love it, so I will dock this in my layout by pressing this button, which means that it's now just a part of my layout, and it won't disappear. It'll just stay there. If you don't like that and you don't want it to do that, you can just press this X and it'll go back to being normal. But I do prefer it being docked in my layout because I like always being able to see it. You can sort of resize certain things, but just be careful if you resize these windows, because when they get too small, some information may be obscured in these details that you need access to. So you may be looking for a setting later on, but you can't find it because squishing the layout has sort of it's like hidden it. If you ever do accidentally delete something off, like if you close something like I just did and you don't know how to get it back, you can always come up to window and you can do load layout and you can do default editor layout. It'll sort of close and reopen and it'll reset you back to how it was. So that's a good thing to know if you ever accidentally close anything. But for now, what we're going to do is we want to access the third person character blueprint that was created automatically. To do that, it's made these folders. We need to click on third person, blueprints, and then we've got our third person character blueprint here, and you can see underneath it, it's very small, but it does say blueprint class on it. Don't worry about this game mode, we don't need to do anything with this, but we'll just double click, open that, and you'll see it's opened in this separate little window that's popped out. You don't have to do this, you can just full screen if you want, but I'm going to click on here on this tab and I'm going to drag it into my viewport so that so it's like tabbed all in the same window. It's just my preference. You can do it however you like. So when we've got a blueprint opened, it looks quite complicated upon first viewing it, but don't worry. All of this stuff in the middle, you don't need to worry about any of that. This is all just logic that they've put in by default for things like the camera movement, the movement input, and the jump inputs. You don't need to change or mess with any of this. Just leave this alone. This main viewport in the middle is our event graph, and this is where the majority of our sort of coding and logic is going to go for our character. You have some other tabs up here. So you have a construction script. You don't need to worry about that or use that. I will probably talk to you a bit more about that in a later tutorial. But then we have this viewport where we can actually view the character and all of its components. Up in the top left, we have the components panel, where we've got things like our character's mesh, which is the model for the character. We've got this arrow component that's in here. We've got a boom arm for the camera, and then we have the camera itself. We can manipulate all of these components, but because of the way this character's set up, we can't really delete things off of it. We could set this to nothing, but we can't like delete the component, and I will explain why in a later video. But for now, we don't need to change any of these. On the right-hand side, we have our details panel. So whenever we have anything clicked, it doesn't matter if it's one of these or if it's variable or something else. It will have some settings that you can mess with over in the details panel. But again, you don't have to worry about a lot of this stuff that's here. We just want to focus on our event graph. In the event graph, we have all of these blueprint coding nodes. And you can see they're all color-coded, but you don't need to worry about those specifically. All we need to know at this stage is that these red ones are what we call events. And events lead to actions. So events trigger something, and then these that come after actions that are performed. So, for example, this first one is called Begin Play. And what this means is that when this blueprint is created in the world and it begins, all of this stuff will happen just once. These camera and movement ones are linked to your keys. So these, and I will explain the input in more detail, but this event, for example, is sort of linked to WASD, and then this is linked to your mouse movement. And then values that are sort of returned by those go into adding, input to various different things. This one's a bit easier. This is just IA_jump. So this is just saying, so this will be linked to my space bar. And it's just saying, once it's started, so once I've pressed it, it will jump. And then it has this stop jumping function when it's completed. And I think it's one of those systems, you see it a lot in 2D games where if you just tap spacebar, you'll do like a small jump. But if you hold it, then you'll do a taller jump. I think that's how it works. But yeah, so just really important that you notice that these red nodes are events, and events lead to actions. So next, we're going to focus on variables. Now, I may have already done a lesson about variables, but I'll just do a quick refresher. There are different kinds of variables. I'm just going to create a new one, and I'm going to leave it called new var. So it'll be new var for new variable. And if I click this button here, you'll see that there are all these different types. I know this looks quite intimidating, but you don't have to worry about all of these. A lot of them won't be used very regularly. But some basic ones that we're going to use this for here that we'll probably end up using quite a lot. The first one is Boolean. Now, a Boolean is a true or false variable. So it could be something like, so here we have a jump. So we may have a Boolean that says can jump. And the reason we may have that is because, let's say you have a thing in your game where it's like, I don't know, maybe you've got some sort of like trap that stops you from being able to move. We don't want the player to be able to jump, so we can have this Boolean to say whether or not they can jump. There is also an integer. Now, an integer is a whole number. So something like 1, 2, 3, 4. Those are all integers. You may have learned about that in maths because they refer to the same thing. There is also another variable called a float. Now, a float is also a number. However, the difference between a float and an integer is that a float can have a decimal point. So, for example, you could have 1.1, 1.5, 2.8. Whereas an integer can only be a whole number. It can only be 1, 2, 3, 4. You can't have an integer that is 1.5. That's important depending on what you want to use it for. So, for example, I might have a float that represents my player health, but then I may have an integer that indicates my player lives. Because you may have health that may be like 1.5 or something, but you'd never have 1.5 lives, would you? You either have 1 life or 2 life or something like that. So we'd use a whole number for that, and maybe we'd use a float for our health. You could also use an integer for your health, but I will go through in a future tutorial why the difference between the two, because it depends on what kind of health system you want. And finally, one of the other main ones we've used is something called a string. Now, a string is just a collection of characters, so it's words, basically. Its most simplest form, it's words, sentences, things things that you'd actually type. And an example of what we would use this for is something like the player name. So whenever we make changes to our blueprint, we need to press this button here. It says compile. It'll have this yellow question mark on it. And if we compile and it gives us this green tick, it means that all of our code that's in here, all of our blueprint nodes, are all fine. There's nothing wrong with them. There's no errors. If there was something wrong with it, trying to think of what we could do. If there was something wrong with it, it would throw up like a red thing. So if I unplug this, it's thrown up an error. You don't need to worry why, but I'm just showing you as an example. It will tell you if there is an error. And then I've just plugged it back in and it all works. So what we can do as well is once we've compiled, each of these variables will have a default value on this right-hand side. So a Boolean, because it's either true or false, it's a checkbox. So by default, we want to be able to jump, I guess. You could have that as false from the start and set it true somewhere else if you wanted, but we'll have that just as true for now. Player lives, that's by default set to 0, so I'm going to say we have 3 lives. Player health is set to 0, so I'm going to change that to 100. And player name, I'm just going to set this to my name. I'm just going to set it to be Corey. What you can also do is for any of these variables, if you drag this into the event graph, you can either get it or set it. So if we get it, we'll get this little node here. On its own, it won't do anything, but I will show you why that's important. And then in here, if we drag it back in again, sorry, we can set it. This has a little bit sort of more to it. And this needs to plug in with something. So an event needs to trigger this action to happen. If I just leave this here on its own, it's not going to do anything because it's not linked up. We're going to ignore all of like this other stuff that's on here. But we want this to happen after the begin play. So off of this node here, I'm going to drag this in there. And we can either set it to true or false. It's the same as setting the default value. It's just at runtime, we may want to change it. So what I'm going to do now is off of the end of here, so begin play, we're going to move along. And off of this one, I'm going to drag off. And I'm going to do a print string. What a print string will do is when we run the game, it's going to print off whatever's here. So it just says hello. But what we can do is we can, off of here, we can drag off the purple bit or the pink bit. We can type append. And you'll see all append does means that we can put multiple text values in there. And here we can add a pin. So I'm going to add 2 more pins so that we've got 4. And for each one of my variables, I'm going to get. We'll get each one. And I'm going to plug them into each one of these. So because these aren't strings, they just do a little conversion. It does it automatically, but because this one is a string, that just plugs straight in without needing to be converted. So don't worry about these. It doesn't really mean anything. It still works. We'll compile. And now, I didn't show you this in the last tutorial, but up here, we have some controls for playing the game. So if I press this play button, you'll see that we're going to start, and we've got a little third-person character here. Can move around. Press escape again. You may have noticed it, or you may not have noticed it, but in this top right corner here, our print string triggered, and it had a little bit of information. We can see here, it just looks like a bunch of numbers, but it's saying true, because that was our Boolean. That was our can jump, and by default, it's true. It says 3, because next is our player lives, and by default, our player lives is 3. And then it says 100.0, because of our float, our health, which is 100.0. And it says Corey, because our player name in here I set to Corey. So even though I have changed these, we could have its default name be Corey, but let's say I dragged in here and I did set, and I changed it to Jim Bob. So the player name is now Jim Bob, and we're gonna set. I'm gonna set the lives to 10. No, I won't do that actually. I'll do 5. So change the name to Jim Bob 5. Our default value is still 3 and Corey, but at runtime, because this happens when the game starts, this will change those variables. So now if I play, you can see it says true for the jump, 5 for the lives, 100.0 for the health, and now it says Jim Bob for the name. So that's just a really basic overview of some variables and how we can manipulate them.